Maleficent's Aurora to DDLJ's Raj and Simran, marriage is regarded as the ultimate symbol of love. Romance, two souls getting tied up in one bond of passion and devotion. Wait, too dramatic? Well, I agree. And so does the history of marriage. Confused? Let me help you out with this video where we will talk about the history of marriage. While marriage proposals are the most viewed videos on social media and everyone is waiting to find their soulmate, their better half, their spouse, the history of marriage is, well, not that romantic. It's rather more technical, I'd say. It is widely agreed that the origin of marriage dates well before the recorded history. But the earliest records evidence of marriage ceremonies uniting one woman and one man dates from about 2350 BC in the Far East. Over the next several hundred years, marriages evolved into a widespread institution, embraced by various cultures. How old is the institution then? Well, apart from the mythological tales we hear, if we go to more historical records, the best available evidence suggests that it's about 4,350 years old. For thousands of years before that, most anthropologists believe families consisted of loosely organized groups of as many as 30 people, with several male leaders, multiple women shared by them, and children. As hunter-gatherers settled down into agricultural civilization, societies had a need for a more stable arrangement. The first recorded evidence of marriage ceremonies uniting one woman and one man dates from around 2350 BC in Mesopotamia. Over the next several years, the institution evolved, and it was embraced by the ancient Hebrews, Greeks, and Romans. But back then, marriage had little or nothing actually to do with love or religion. Then, what was it about? Well, marriage's primary purpose was to bind women to men and thus guarantee that a man's children were truly his biological heirs. Through marriage, a woman became a man's property. In the betrothal ceremony of ancient Greece, a father would hand over his daughter with these words: "I pledge my daughter for the purpose of producing legitimate offspring." Ugh, that sounds creepy and borderline inappropriate, let alone sexist. But anyways, it's ancient Greece, people. So, when did the religion become involved? Well, as the Roman Catholic Church became a powerful institution in Europe, the blessings of a priest became a necessary step for marriage to be legally recognized. By the 8th century, marriage was widely accepted in the Catholic Church as a sacrament or a ceremony to bestow God's grace. At the Council of Trent in 1563, the sacramental nature of marriage was written into the standard law. So did this standard law change the nature of marriage? Well, the church blessings did improve the lot of wives. Men were taught to show greater respect for their wives and forbidden from divorcing them. Christian doctrine declared that twain shall be one flesh, giving husband and wife exclusive access to each other's body. This put pressure on men to remain sexually faithful. But the church still held that men were the head of families, with their wives required to accept their wishes. So, when did love enter the picture? When the hero saw the heroine for the first time. That's like the basics. Okay, bad joke. Love entered the picture later than you might think. For much of human history, couples were brought together for practical reasons, not because they fell in love. In time, of course, many marriage partners came to feel deep mutual love and devotion. But the idea of romantic love as a motivating force for marriage only goes far as back as the Middle Ages. Naturally, many scholars believe the concept was invented by the French. Makes sense. Its model was the knight who fell intense love for someone else's wife. Okay, as in the case of Sir Lancelot and King Arthur's wife. 12th century advice literature told men to woo the object of their desires by praising her eyes, hair, and lips. In the 13th century, Richard de Fourneval, physician to the King of France, wrote Advice on Love, in which he suggested that a woman cast her love flirtatious glances, anything but a frank and open entreaty. So, that's all the history of love gurus, I guess. Well, did love change marriage? It sure did. Marilyn Yalom, a Stanford historian and author of A History of the Wife, credits the concept of romantic love with giving women greater leverage in what had been a largely pragmatic transaction. Wives no longer existed solely to serve men. The romantic prince, in fact, sought to serve the woman he loved. Still, the notion that the husband owned the wife continued to hold sway for centuries. When colonists first came to America, at a time when polygamy was still accepted in most parts of the world, the husband's dominance was officially recognized under a legal doctrine called converture, under which the new bride's identity was absorbed into his. The bride gave up her name to symbolize the surrendering of her identity, and the husband suddenly became more important as the official public representative of two people, not one. The rules were so strict that any American woman who married a foreigner immediately lost her citizenship. How did this tradition change? Well, women won the right to vote. When that happened in 1920, the institution of marriage began a dramatic transformation. Suddenly, each union consisted of two full citizens, although tradition dictated that the husband still ruled the home. By the late 1960s, state laws forbidding interracial marriages had been thrown out, and the last states had dropped laws against the use of birth control. By the 1970s, the law finally recognized the concept of marital rape, which up to that point was inconceivable, as the husband owned his wife sexually. The idea that marriage is a private relationship for the fulfillment of two individuals is really very new, said historian Stephanie Kuntz, author of The Way We Never Were, American Families and the Nostalgia Trap. Within the past 40 years, marriage has changed more than in the last 5,000. Men who married gay men. What about them? Well, gay marriage is rare in history, but not unknown. The Roman Emperor Nero, who ruled from AD 54 to 68, twice married men in formal wedding ceremonies and forced the imperial court to treat them as his wives. In 2nd and 3rd century Rome, homosexual weddings became common enough that it worried the social commentator Juvenal, says Marilyn Yalom in The History of a Wife. Look, a man of family and fortune being wed to a man, Juvenal wrote. Such things before we are much older will be done in public. He mocked such unions, saying that male brides would never be able to hold their husbands by having a baby. Shady. The Romans outlawed formal homosexual unions in the year 342. But Yale history professor John Boswell says he's found scattered evidence of homosexual unions after the time, including some that were recognized by Catholic and Greek Orthodox churches. In one 13th century Greek Orthodox ceremony, the order for solemnization of same-sex union, the celebrant asked God to grant the participants grace to love one another and to abide unhated and not a cause of scandal all the days of their lives, with the help of the Holy Mother of God and all thy saints. Other religions recognize the right of marriage in various different ways. The Muslim faith allows a polygamous marriage, with a man allowed as many as 4 wives. The Hindu faith has the profound belief that marriage celebrates the joining together of two individuals for eternity, so that they can together pursue truth, meaning, and physical desire. Today, most people recognize that regardless of how a couple enters into the marriage, it is a bond between two people that involves responsibility and legalities, as well as commitment and challenge. Some people even enter into prenuptial contracts to ensure that their future is safe. The concept of marriage, however, has remained constant throughout the ages. Marriage has adapted through time. In 2013, the Marriage Act 2013 enabled members of the same sex in America to enter into marriage. Whether a religious marriage ceremony is available or permissible, however, depends upon the individual religion. Currently, neither the Catholic Church nor the Church of England offers same-sex ceremonies. Some Hindu priests and Muslim imams have performed same-sex marriage ceremonies. Although the core principle of marriage has remained constant, the history of marriage demonstrates how it has evolved throughout time. As marriage continues to evolve, so will the laws governing it. But now at least we know that love and marriage was not how the equation was as it started. But thank God the tradition includes throwing a party with delicious food for the guests. Ugh, now that makes me want to attend a marriage right now. But wait, before I go looking for wedding cards, can you do me a favor and look for that subscribe button and press it right now? You know the drill. Comment your views, like our videos, share them with fellow enthusiasts. And until we meet next, stay curious, stay awesome. Vaultofvox signing off.